Hey everybody, welcome back to Keyword Crypto. This is Michael, and this week I have returning legendary guest for the third time, Notsofast. We talk everything NFTs because unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that the NFT space right now is absolutely exploding. And we don't want you to get scammed, so we give you a bunch of tips to avoid scammers along the way so you don't lose all your money. He did something really cool. He donated an original piece of artwork that you definitely got to ask him about. I'm not going to say any more than that. He donated to the show to help fund the show. So I took it, I merged it with a piece of artwork that I normally use, and I made 4 variations for 4 different chains. One for Ethereum, one for Solana, one for Tezos, and one for Polygon. The Ethereum and Solana ones are going to be one-offs. It's going to be priced a little higher if you want a piece of Notsofast keyword crypto art history. But the Polygon and Tezos ones are going to be runs of 50 and listed for about like 10 to 15 bucks, just depending on the price of Tezos and Ethereum at the time. The Polygon one is only going to have 30 for sale. The other 20 are going to be given away in Twitter raffles to friends of the show. So make sure you follow the Twitter account at Keyword Crypto for alerts on that. Small note, his microphone was going through a little bit of issues. We got it squared away after the first 10 to 15 minutes. So after that, it gets totally better and it's all good. Everything's going to be in the show notes, links to the NFTs. If you want to donate to the show and you don't want an NFT because you just don't like NFTs, I got you covered. There's links there too. And it all goes to help make this thing run smoothly. So without further ado, enjoy the interview with Notsofast. All right, everybody, I got an amazing, legendary guest back for the third time, making his appearance in the red corner. Notsofast.
Ding, ding, ding. How's it going?
Good. Welcome back, dude.
Thank you. I'm really super happy to be here and talking to you again. It's always a pleasure. So,
yeah, why did you said something before we started recording about this in a time of red candles. Say that again, because that was interesting.
Oh yeah, this is always like you could be down in the red candles, down in the trash, but we're our talk can be like a meandering bird's eye view, just soaring above it all on calm gusts of warm air. Is what we're aiming
poetic.
for here.
Very poetic.
Call it the influence of art NFTs on my psyche, I guess, is bringing out the poetry.
Exactly. So last time you were here, we had I don't want to say it's contentious, but it was a very not even heated, because I felt like neither of us were heated, but it was we had a very, very intense talk about proof of work,
mm-hmm.
and the dangers to the environment and all that, and how bad it is and how bad it isn't. And I said, I just want to kind of focus on NFTs this time, but you were like, no, we got to bring it up a little bit because there is all that stuff out there in the mainstream media about NFTs and people attacking NFTs because of the proof of work. So I thought, we should touch on that for a couple seconds and just kind of get that out of the way first and foremost, because I've lost a lot of, street cred with some of the Vile gang because I've been so pro NFT.
Oh my goodness.
And like a couple of them blocked me, and I'm just like, holy shit, man, this is crazy. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What's your take on all that?
So let's, possibly just for the purposes of this discussion, but also maybe for like setting the energy part of NFTs aside for the moment. Let's assume that we're at the start of a really big boom in uptake of making, digital assets that people can own on blockchains, and that one way or another, the energy will sort itself out. Like we'll use so much NFTs or so many NFTs, like billions or trillions, that the energy cost per creation or send for one will be minuscule or fall within an acceptable range, or all of the NFT use will move to low energy using proof of stake networks, and the energy use per NFT transaction, we can assume to have, if we just proceed assuming that the utility of it far, far outweighs the environmental impact of one, then going forward, we'll be able to sort of get into that zone of it without having to come back and readdress or get magnetized, pulled back to the environmental argument for or against, because we've been through that, and it's easy to be drawn back into that, but we don't have to. We can preface it without having to like re-preface it throughout the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think I get frustrated because somebody I used to follow kept on saying like, we need to change the argument. We need to change the argument. And I'm like, bro, we don't have the data on our side yet. Like right now, proof of work is pretty toxic. And just saying we need to change the argument, that's like, if that's fine if you want to go out and put out fake data versus just saying, yes, proof of work is terrible. The chain that has the crypto that has like 99.999% of NFTs on it is moving to proof of stake. It's aware that proof of work is bad. It's making the changes. What more do you want us to do? Like that's the argument right there in my mind.
Yeah,
like, everyone's aware of it, and they're moving towards clean energy. So now we don't need to talk about that anymore. Now we can just talk about the art.
I can agree with that position to a certain extent. Like if that's the popular understanding, it's close enough to what I think that I would like. Let's go with it. I don't want to. It's not worth it for me to nitpick when I could be looking forward so much.
Exactly. It's like what I kind of came to the conclusion was, let's just accept the premise of their argument that proof of work is bad, and realize that we're not even like we're not trying to fix proof of work with Ethereum, which I'm using Ethereum since most NFTs are on Ethereum right now.
Yeah.
They're moving towards proof of stake, so that to me that's kind of like a non-argument to say that proof of work is bad and that's why NFTs are bad. Well, since the majority of NFTs are on Ethereum, that's moving to proof of stake, and the next two chains with the most NFTs are Tezos and Solana, both super low energy proof of stake derivative type chains. Then I don't think we need to have that discussion anymore. Right.
It's almost like I guess the arguments are about like, NFTs are ocean boiling, like art except boiling the oceans. It can sort of completely be left in the past, and kind of anybody who's coming into the discussion armed with that point is kind of you kind of know like they're just doing it for some other reason, not really pertinent to the topic. It's like either talking to their base or like feelings of missing out on it being early, or trying to justify like not making money when other artists are making money. Like I don't know what it is. I'm not inside those folks' heads, but and I don't want to be. I want to look forward on all of it.
Yeah, I feel like those are the people who are just usually the most easily manipulated with kind of talking points and bullet points of arguments. Never really kind of dig into the deeper facets of a conversation or a topic, but RIP fucking Mike in Space and Joe Looney with Rare Pepes. I mean,
yeah. Tell me what you've seen that's going on with that.
I mean, I look, I love those two guys, and I'm so happy that they're finally like making some money off of this and getting some credibility, especially Joe, because it's like for how many years were people saying, "Oh, CryptoPunks, the first NFT," and he's just like, "Excuse me, hello, Rare Pepes, 2017, 2016, I mean, like whatever it was." And so I'm really glad to see that he's getting the credit he deserves for the effort he made, the creations he made, the ecosystem he helped build. So that's, I'm really happy for him and happy for Mike that they're doing that thing. The environmental surfer in me wished it wasn't on a hardcore, diehard, proof of work till we die chain, but whatever. It's just like I said, like,
Yeah,
that's
you
not the
can't go back and
majority of them.
change that
Yeah,
history, let alone
yeah,
like especially not that blockchain history. And at the time, like Bitcoin's proof of work network wasn't using quite as much energy
exactly.
as it is now, and it was all still like a very grand experiment. Like there's
Yeah,
spelling mistakes on half of these rare Pepe cards. They were all just joke memes to try out on Counterparty. And that was
yeah,
the extent of it. Like you could own a rare Pepe. Some of them were rare. Some of them were super common. It was all just in fun experimentation. Like not a whole lot of thought went into making them art pieces, but I suppose that's
yeah,
what's kind of cool.
yeah. I mean, and it for even their common ones now seem so rare just because it's a little hard to get to, or some disappeared, or this or that, and it's just like I'm like I said, I'm happy for Joe. He's a nice guy. We disagree on a few things, but for the most part, he's just a really nice person. So I'm glad it's working out for him.
Yeah. Oh, same
Um,
here.
do you have any rare Pepes? I mean, I'm assuming
Uh,
you do.
I don't actually. No, at the time, like I never got any. I've used Counterparty, and I've been a Counterparty user since that time, because at the time it was a DEX, and you could trade a few tokens on it here or there, and it had like a little bit of volume. And I was always like a big proponent of using whatever DEX you can, because the centralized exchanges are so bad.
Yeah.
So I used it, and the only NFTs I have on there is like my oldest NFT. Um, it was from a failed ICO by Vinny Lingham, and it was called Augmentors. It was supposed to be like a little augmented reality sort of. I don't know if you remember toys like Battle Beasts in the '80s, but that's kind of what they looked like little
Okay.
humanoid animals that would battle each other. And so I have a rookie token on there, and it's from 2016, so it's my oldest NFT. And
Damn.
there's not a lot of show for it. There's no graphic associated with it. There's only a placeholder that says you will be credited one rookie battler when after the conclusion of the ICO. And of course, the conclusion of the ICO was they took a lot of people's money, they delivered nothing, and
Hold
everybody.
on, Vinny Lingham taking people's money without providing anything? No. What are the
I'm,
odds?
I don't mean to call the guy out for it too badly or anything. I mean, I think he was just a Shark Tank backer or something, but he did give me public closure on Twitter when I asked him about it. He's like, "Yeah, we gave them our money. They did not deliver very much of anything at all, and then it was 2017, and then the aftermath thereof. So
Oof. Yeah.
I'm not expecting anything else from it. I
Hey,
would love though for those dudes to rescue their graphical assets and attach one to my rookie token, my 1 of 600 rookie token, and have it sell for a bunch of money. But that's
hell yeah. That'd be
asking other
epic.
people to do work to make me money or make me back money, and so that's not a very very motivating ask.
1 second. Okay, so we took a 2-second break and fixed a slight microphone issue. So if he sounds different, that is why.
Trying to be better on people's ears.
No, I mean it's like I think everyone's just glad to hear your voice. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's a little blown out or not.
Oh goodness, yeah. If it's blown out, it's just because we're coming off NFT summer and Solana summer
Yeah.
and all that stuff, and I'm blown out myself. So
So being somebody in the space for so long, you've reached legendary status at this point. And I don't say that to blow smoke up your ass. I say this because pretty much every single project that does a few special NFTs for the community pretty much always create one for you.
I feel like it's a weird thing, you know. I I'm not used to being tributed in that way, and so the way I tell myself that people are doing it is that I'm pretty much just excited and mind blown that anybody would bother, so that I'll tweet about it, and I guess these people don't realize that most of my followers are like people that were miners back in the day, or like followed me because if I tweeted something about a coin, it would go up, and that doesn't happen anymore. So I feel like most the reach that they're expecting is not actually not actually there. But even and also the second thing is that I've on purpose never changed my profile pic since June 2014, and so that makes me a much easier thing to reference. Maybe that's why they're
True.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be it.
I'm
I
surfing
didn't
on
think about
Lindy
that.
recognizability, and maybe that's what it is. But like either way, I really, really appreciate when people do it, and yeah, I just get as long as it's in fun. Like it's not like an ego thing. I don't really like bring it on. I especially don't go out and request that people do it. I just if somebody brings it to my attention or like airdrops me an NFT of something that has like some likeness in common with my profile pic, I'm just like, holy crap, they're doing it again. This space is crazy. Thank
I
you.
mean, I noticed it because I fell down the Mars Cats Voyage rabbit hole these last couple of days and spent way too much money on fucking cats. Like I'm a
Oh
full
no.
on degenerate now. But I noticed they in one of their announcements, I scrolled up and they said, "Oh yeah, we have a few that we made," and one of them was for you. And I was like, "Holy shit, dude! Like everybody's making one for this guy."
It just I just reached that point, I guess. I'm there with like Cryptopathic and Crypto Cobain. That recognizability and like been around long enough factor. Uh, I don't know what to say, man. It's so weird.
Which I think kind of goes to a point of like if if you don't change your PFP, your profile picture
Mm-hmm.
for a long, long time, and you kind of build, I mean, because it seems like you've built people have associated their account with that picture, and it
Mm-hmm.
would be an interesting thing to see what happens if you change that picture um if people wouldn't notice when you tweeted as much, because I feel like people are looking at profile pictures now when they tweet or when they're reading people's tweets. Because I know in a lot of my in my iOS app and in my browser,
Mm-hmm.
sometime if the person makes their personal name really long, it actually blocks out their Twitter handle.
Yeah.
And so if I don't recognize the name or the PFP, sometimes I'll just keep scrolling by and won't even read what they said. So it's like, oh, who's that? And I just keep going.
Yeah, that's a super weird thing. Like I never change the displayed name either. Just for that reason.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times people don't realize. And the really strange thing is like the sort of tastemakers, Twitter tastemakers for NFTs that they change their profile pic all the time to whatever's like cool. It's sort of like
Yeah.
the way to close the door
Guilty.
behind their mint
Guilty as
acquisition.
charged.
Hey, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying like that's what's done. You're kind of like,
But I'm also not a taste. But I'm not also not a taste maker. I'm just.
hey, I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe you've made some tastes. Maybe. But like, it's just how it's done right now. You're like, oh, who's this again? Like, oh wow, their profile pic is that pixelated frog by Gremplin. I love those, by the way. They're so funny to me, but I don't have any. I never got any because I think I wasn't quite cool enough to be in on the mint. But yeah,
I was actually in a group that they were talking about the mint, and then I was like, "These are fucking ugly. I'm not going to mint that." And then all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh God, what was I thinking?"
They're ugly, but they're like they're of a style. Like each one is of that series, and that recognizability is got to be like it's a bit of a middle finger to all like the pixelated clone stuff that came before it, and a kind of call back to the CryptoPunks are so ugly. I can't believe they're worth so much for just those pixels. I could do that type thing. I think that it's like a sly nod to that. Talking about all these art concepts will always feel weird to me. I'll always feel like I'm high on sniffing my own farts when I say stuff like that.
But I mean, I think like this is how people are going to talk about it 50 years from now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like this stuff is going to be in art schools, and they're gonna go through just like we went through Basquiat and whoever, like Ansel Adams, and they're going to discuss what was the style, who were the influences. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Oh, big
and I
time.
guarantee CryptoPunks is going to be one of those things people talk about in class. I mean, I'm sure they'll probably have an entire digital art cryptocurrency, PFP class at some point in some college.
Oh, I'm certain
And
they
I'm
will.
sure your name will come up in that.
Oh my God. At
And the
least my
many odes to Not So Fast.
Oh God, yeah. Like if it may be that they point to the gallery that I made and be like, this is the repository, the ancient repository that can still be viewed today of all the tributes to the guy in the red shirt and the restaurant that is now long, long out of business. Like,
But I mean, not only just the tributes to you, but you have a very supportive bone in your body about helping artists and grabbing like one of something. I mean, because I've looked at your repository, and it is enormous. And it's just like the most random ones that they never went anywhere, but like people reached out to you. And I mean, you've been a really big supporter of artists in the NFT space.
I, thank you. I've always tried to support like what I find other cool that other people are doing. And it's been like ever since like long before crypto. Like it's something that's always been like part of me. Like for the longest time it was like indie music and obscure music. And like I would get some cred by finding and supporting an artist with almost no audience that I would happen to like, or even if I didn't totally love their music, if I saw them play live and knew they were really good or whatever, like I would love to go to a live show and be like one of five people in the audience and just be blown away. And that's happened enough times where like even if I get buy some recorded music of theirs to take home and listen to, even if it's not like my thing or it's not the greatest piece of music that I've got, I always am called back to the night I like went to that show and discovered them. And so NFT, like liking indie artists has always been it's like a natural progression almost, because I don't know, I know a lot more about music than I know about visual art, but I am super amped at how much I've learned about it with the rise of NFTs. And I'm at the point where like for everything I learn, I realize how dumb I am and how little I actually know about it. But the cool thing is that you still get to appreciate whatever art it is on the subjective level. And then I realize how much of these like people that have been around crypto Twitter for so long have also done art and been artists before, but they never really had a chance to work on their art with positive EV, like positive expected value. And this is not a shill, but I want to take a recent example of this is a guy I know in the States, and he goes by the handle Human Action. And he would always make like in 2017, and I think he was even around in 2016, crypto meme apparel. And he was always like kind of along the same wavelength as me about altcoins being okay and it being fun to experiment. And so we always connected on that level. And then recently, he started making NFTs and kind of like a profile picture spoof. He made 500 kind of profile pictures out of bread, out of like half baguettes, and he would like eat the other half during the evenings when he was working on this. And he dropped it 2 days ago, and it was like not expensive, and he worked on it for like evenings and evenings and evenings. It's not like generative or anything, but his bread had sold out this morning. And he was so happy about it. He made me a
Oh my
tribute one.
God.
It was hilarious. He like made a meme of just like the eyes and eyebrows of one of his breadheads, like in response to something. And I lost my shit because it was so funny as like just a meme response. I'm like, these are like, I already knew this guy was talented and he made breadheads and I found them hilarious. And I don't even care if nobody else did. I actually missed minting more. So the only one I have is the tribute one he made of me. So I got to go secondary and buy some. But he made bread heads out of real bread, the other half of which he ate while he was working on making the NFTs, which I think is just hilarious.
Okay, what's it called again? Because I'm looking it up right now while you talk.
I think it's breadheads_NFT is the Twitter account.
Okay, I want to see these. Oh, somebody! It's just the ENS name. Okay, we'll keep talking. We'll keep going. Yeah. So, but that, I mean, it just the fact that you see something, you get inspired by it, you jump in. Now, do you feel that you have? So we've never really talked about too much about your life outside of crypto.
Yeah.
But do you feel like? Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's something that I don't really talk about, or at least I think really I think about before I mention stuff to maintain a good example of someone staying anonymous or as anonymous as possible.
Yeah. So, but so not going too deep into what you do. Do you come from a place of a little bit of wealth where you're able to take risks, where you're able to just buy what you're excited about? Do you, and how do you feel about that with Ethereum right now, with the way prices are so inflated, where it kind of does feel like on Ethereum, not so much Tezos, and it's starting to kind of happen in Solana too, where it is getting priced out for average people. It is becoming like the new Christie's in a sense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. And I guess as a background, I've definitely got a middle class background. Never like probably upper middle class, I would say. But it's Canada, so it's a little bit different. It's a lot easier to be it's a lot easier to be comfortable lower middle class, and our middle class stuck around, I think, for a lot longer than it did in the States. So it's a difficult thing to compare in context, but I never went hungry or whatever like that. But I also didn't have a lot of disposable income. If I did, it was because I thankfully for my parents, I got taught the value of working for myself and having my own money from a pretty young age. And so the mandate with my parents was you have to save half for college or whatever, but the other half you can spend on whatever you want. And so I I exercised that to the full extent that I could. And a lot of the time I would, if I wanted something, I never wanted anything big. I never wanted a really nice car or anything like that. I would want I would want to buy magic cards, and I would want to buy I would want to go to a show or something, and maybe buy the band's music or a shirt or whatever. And that was that was what fueled it. So I guess the gentrification of ETH and the ability to spend on it, I'm aware that even when gas is expensive, I can still afford to go buy something that's cool. But I definitely have paid a lot of ETH in gas across all these accounts, not just for NFTs, but for everything. And I'm pretty well aware that for a lot of people, it's pretty expensive to spend $2,000, not even get a full Ethereum, try to make some art, try to mint an NFT, and then the transaction times out and you've spent a ton of gas and you don't know when it's going to come down, the price is going to come down again, or you're oh, I got to wait for another paycheck to mint my NFTs so that I can maybe sell them. That's a struggle and a massive, massive, massive pain point that people shouldn't have to encounter to just kind of go where the market is. But all this stuff is A, so new, and B, growing out so fast that like kind of the fees are the only rate limiter. And I guess it gets pushed to the periphery at first, which it ends up becoming like, not the periphery. I mean, all these blockchains didn't have a whole lot going on with them. Well, Tezos is kind of like the biggest example, but now with, I'm probably saying it wrong, hic et nunc, being so big with art and an affordable way to publish NFTs on a chain, like now it's massive and it's so good and it's got its own style and flavor completely separate from Ethereum. And I love that. Like I was a Tezos hater for the longest time. I only bought some to troll myself. And then and now I can go buy art with it.
I just imagine you looking in the mirror saying, "You're a fucking loser. You know how much of a loser you are. I'm going to go buy Tezos and buy art at Tezos. That's how much of a loser you are."
I did a shame tweet about it. Like, I'm buying Tezos to go along with you guys because the last thing I hated so much, I never bought Ripple. Like pumped the fuck and made people rich, and I felt jealous, and I couldn't be jealous, so I had to buy Tezos. So that's kind of yeah. But I don't know. Do motivations on getting in on this stuff really matter? I mean, there's a little bit of greed and there's a little bit of wow. I actually like what the art that this person made, and there's a little bit of like, I want to find the next like CryptoPunks, or like this is all subjective, so I want to try and find the next thing that ends up being super cool. Like, yeah, there's so many motivators for getting involved in whatever, and like now you can even do that kind of trying to be early spelunking on new blockchains that are doing the same stuff. Like it's pretty cool, and it's the still early meme is kind of perfect for this because there's so much to explore, and the actual like anti-energy consumption argument of it is a weird roadblock that I didn't think would matter, but it's just kind of I feel like it's just kind of a way for people to have a handy reason that sounds smart for dismissing something that they either don't have the time or the wherewithal or the inclination or interest to understand fully.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just like, I was so shocked when that argument came up. I said, okay, if everything was on Bitcoin, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. But even with proof of work, Ethereum is like 1/10 the amount of energy output as BTC. And I'm like, why are you attacking that? You're attacking poor artists who are just trying to make some money versus these like, people who are just like, no, we want to burn the ocean. I mean, I've had Bitcoiners actually say, I want to burn the oceans just to fucking make you cry. And I'm like, okay. You realize that's going to hurt you too, though, right? So, but like, it's like, why are you going after Ethereum people? I'm like, okay. So that's when I realized, like, okay, we got to change the narrative and really push the narrative that it's moving to proof of stake. And then it's really helping artists in a big way. But to go back to your point about the idea of finding something and maybe finding that next big thing, to me, that kind of also goes back to bands. And and you were saying it about bands, and I used to love trying to find like that, that new band that was like, it's going to be hot and popular, and tell my friends about it. And then it did. And it would always crack me up because I would see people find a cool band, try to get it famous, and then when it did get famous, they get pissed off and say, well, you should have listened to them when they were blah, blah. It's like, well, do you want them to get famous or do you not want them to get famous? Like,
and you know what, man? You know why people did that is because the only payoff to the early finder was, that once the band was popular, that was their only remaining payoff, is that they could say, well, I knew them when, and you needed to know them when.
Yeah.
And now with NFTs, there's a financial payoff to replace that, which is, in a lot of ways even better because, you get not only reputation for being the person to find out about them early, but you're also like, yeah, and I minted these, and now you're
Yeah.
loving these for
And
like
now I
100
have a
times.
Lambo.
Yeah, you're loving these for 100 times my mint price. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that the financial component is kind of like, it was a missing piece. It was like a more visceral reward for the early finder. And that's why, maybe I guess with like indie music and stuff, there was always like a really, really grouchy component to the early independent music person. They would always be like,
Yeah.
oh, these new people are coming in and ruining everything that I used to like. Now they're popular, I can't like them anymore, like this sucks. There's a big internal conflict, but apparently that can be solved with like a payoff. I guess that's all right.
I know. People lose their values really quickly when you hand them $1 million.
Yeah, they really do. Well, just I can't fault them. If you get life-changing money for liking an indie artist,
Yeah.
and the artist is getting paid, like I don't see something that wrong with it. Like obviously it's a shakeup, and from the sort of it destabilizes what we thought of haves and have-nots, and it creates some new haves out of have-nots, but it also potentially creates some new have-nots as well. Like it's socially it's a different question, and it's definitely a disruption, but as long as I don't see new losers in this necessarily. I just see new winners, and to
I
me
don't know. I
that's a
see
net
new
good.
losers on crypto all the time.
Do you?
On Twitter. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
No. That's I set you up for that, so it was worth doing. But I get what you're saying. Like people are always gonna over risk in things, and I think like the fact that a lot of this stuff is rate limited by expensive gas prices,
Yeah.
people are really, really reticent to pay high transaction fees to speculate on something. But they will ape at whatever price is the going rate. So I think naturally the people that shouldn't be um, taking risks on these investments, if you can even call them that, they're kind of also naturally pricing themselves out because of the gas costs just to transact. Um, they don't want to pay that because they know that that's they're not receiving anything of value for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
How
This
do
is
you?
just how it is right now, right?
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's also being done, I kind of think, on purpose by whales who are minting, you know, and going all in and aping all at once, all at the same time, driving gas prices sometimes up to like $1,000, $2,000 on a mint project, knowing that their gas could be lost. And that really pushes anybody. That pushes like, literally 99.9% of the world's population out of being able to mint certain projects. And then they drive up the price, and then they dump on people.
So
And
this is
go ahead.
exact. You've got the dynamic exactly right. But let me offer a kind of more accurate explanation than whales for what's going on with like minting and stuff, right? So you have like a project that's going to launch an NFT series, and it's building a community, and it's teasing some art, and it's doing all the right things. Um, yeah, it's apt to describe the people kind of horning in there and taking the lion's share of the mint as whales, but they're actually doing it via botting and via exploiting the nature of competition for block space. So they're front running all the kind of retail minters by composing a transaction where they mint, like 6,000 out of 10,000 of the NFTs away from like a 20 per person max mint from the website.
Yeah.
And they're crafting that transaction and paying, bribing, it's literally bribing a miner directly to process the transaction for them. And the way they'll fund this is very often they'll have a Discord full of people contributing to it, and those people get guaranteed amounts of the mint in whatever they want. They pay more than mint for each one that they get, but they pay way less than they would in gas, while retail is all paying gas. So what you end up having is those people in on the Discord bot buy or whatever, paying the same price over mint as the retail people, but everybody's got the same kind of floor on this. And the retail people only see that, okay, well, this minted for like 0.05 ETH, but because of gas, I had to pay like 0.12 ETH for my one that I got. And oh no, like there's other people selling for below what I paid. Oh no, I lost money. I guess I'm stuck with this. I hope I like the art, but it really is botable. And what the bots are doing is they're exploiting the organic way that communities around certain things get built up in order to mint out something, to control a large part of the supply, and also kind of get access to the most rares. And then a lot of what these same projects will do when they have this many things is they'll create false floors and set things a little higher than they normally would, and then once you control enough of the supply, you can sort of set the floor at wherever you want. Like you can put the floor low, and then all the retail people who are doing this speculatively, if they want to not miss the next mint, but all their capital's tied up, like they have no choice but to sell for less than they paid in order to maybe take a shot at something new. And then you can buy up all the floor ones and then reset pull all your other ones that you had for sale and raise the floor higher. So there's a lot of like that's definitely a whale action like you were describing, but at time of mint, it's mostly botting and group actions. And there's a few ways that this is being worked on to solve, but if it can be automated, it will be. And to be honest, like it kind of should be for now, until we get an established way that makes things really hard to bot. And that's tricky to do. I hate to say it, but it almost resolves towards a proof of work or proof of work like system. The work doesn't have to be majorly energy intensive. It just has to be enough work and submission of like hard to falsify or hard to multiply bits of information, so such that like an individual can claim their fair share, but a bot network can't create enough false individuals to claim a large share. If you had to submit a passport to mint an NFT, that would be one way to do it. A terrible way, but a way that at least limits the rate. And I think that's where things are going. Like you've got to get an email.
If only Vinny Lingham made Civic a reality.
That's another one. Chalk it up to Vinny Lingham coming up twice in this podcast, and both times in a not very flattering light. Good job, man.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like I consider those people whales in the sense of like they're buying up 6,000 of a 10,000 project.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's I mean, maybe not necessarily like billionaires, but they've figured out how to game the system. And people were, so what's the name of that? Wasn't there like a side chain or something like that was on Ethereum that was allowing people to do that, to pay the miner to mint 6,000 at below mint or at above mint, but for like almost no gas. I forget the name
Um,
of it.
yeah, well,
Came out like last week or something like that.
there was like the flash bots thing, and with the sort of EIP 1559 thing, you can still run flash bots once Ethereum goes to full proof of stake. I think you will still be able to, but it will be harder to organize. I think privately, um, a bunch of ETH staking pools will probably entertain offers from people wanting to front run a block and paying for it, but because the fees are burned rather than redistributed, they'll have to just pay stakers directly. And I'm not sure if there's a protocol built for that or not, but it will still happen.
Yeah.
It will just be a transaction nestled within a transaction. You're going to have to get enough, like a large enough staking pool to make it happen. So like, I don't know if Lido Finance, for example, might start offering that to its stakers as a way to make them more money or attract more business. But in the long run, like, it's a centralizing force and it's not super great. So it kind of remains to be seen how that's going to be dealt with. But as long as there is a motivation or an incentive to front run, it's going to happen. And the more a chain gets used, the more often it's worth. You can make a living or you can make a fortune front running.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying this in terms of like, oh, we need to stop this. We need to call the crypto Twitter police. I just mean like you said, as long as it exists, people are going to exploit it.
Right.
Like, as long as we have NFTs on Ethereum, people are going to figure out ways to. That's human nature.
Yeah.
And that's actually good, because as people exploit stuff, we fill in the holes, and then they find another exploit and we fill in that hole. And like, that's how progress happens.
Exactly. This is how it gets built out. And the really awesome thing is that there will always be options. So if if, for example, you can't do a DeFi move on Ethereum without getting sandwich attacked, because that's how they would do it before NFTs got really popular. Like, DeFi trading and Uniswap trading was going off. Like, the sandwich bots would make their money off you, and
Yeah.
they're doing it with NFTs. Like, the more it gets used, the more these people running bots will find out ways within the system to extract kind of front running rent from it.
But then white hat hackers were going in there and figuring out ways to steal all the money from the sandwich hackers.
Yeah, that was
something
that was
hysterical,
super hilarious. Like, giving them poison tokens and like tricking the bots.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like, it
was genius.
Yeah, man. I love this stuff, because this is all just it's a free for all. And I thought that the Wild West of crypto dried up, after my first few years of being involved in it. And no, it's just, we're creating new spaces for it to flourish. And I feel like as long as things stay pretty permissionless, that Wild West will always exist. And the same people will be attracted to it because there are places that you can make like asymmetric bets and get paid off. And as long as we survive to play again and have like capital to throw at it, those spaces will continue to exist, and there will continue to be people getting rich and getting wrecked in there. And I kind of live for that. So
I mean, and it's hard because, like, being the full on progressive, libtard, bleeding heart liberal that I am, people find it very difficult when I say I am for this. Because in my mind, as somebody who believes in progressive values, it's not the state's job to tell me who I can and can't love, or where I'm going to go do this or do that. Like, I don't because I don't feel like that makes me a better, stronger person. I become a better person by learning, and that's the whole purpose of this show, is to instead of trying to shut everything down, try to teach people how not to get hacked so they can take that information and use it in other facets of their world, how not to get pickpocketed, or how not to get scammed on a phishing email, or a Nigerian print scheme, or because all this stuff kind of ties together and we can't ever shut all of it down.
Yeah. Well, there are like some like kind of overarching, I guess you could call it common sense. And I don't think it has a political direction one way or another. And it's easy to get wrapped up topically in thinking that it could. But like learning how to assess risk and expected value of something, of an action that you're about to do or thinking of doing. That's
Yeah.
there's no political bias on that. And learning how to protect what you've built and not lose it, like that's a lot of that is just kind of math, I guess maybe you could call that a conservative thing or whatever, but it'd be a stretch. It's common sense stuff that if you really take a step back, long term bird's eye view of where we've come from and where we're at now, like we kind of live with so much abundance that we can conveniently forget how to have common sense or have proxies stand in for us. And that's not super right, because if you rely too much on, like you said, the state nannying for us, then it completely bypasses the requirement to learn anything. And kind of the more of your own autonomy you let the state handle for you for whatever reason, the less the more that muscle atrophies in your own self. And whether
Yeah.
for whatever reason you want to use it, whether it's for learning, whether it's for teaching, whether it's for doing any kind of good, whether it's for I don't know, like whatever political bent that you want to put your will and your effort towards, you can't do it if you've allowed your shit to be handled by somebody else,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where my liberal leanings come in is, or my progressive leanings come in, as I say, make sure that people aren't going to go homeless if they lose their job.
Yeah.
Like have a basic UBI that covers food, housing, water, electricity, school, that just the basics, because I've lived in that situation where I was on disability and it didn't even cover my basics. And I ended up having to declare bankruptcy after a year and a half because I couldn't walk for 9 months.
Oh man.
And like, that's how screwed up our system is. I had to put my student loans on hold for 6 months because I couldn't walk, I couldn't work. And they added $7,000 of interest to my student loan.
Jesus Christ. That's such a, it's an unfeeling, uncaring system. Like I am from in Canada, a comparative, massively caring for the, we have a social net. We have a social safety net. It's pretty awesome. If I get sick or if I get hurt, like, I don't have to worry about the financial part of what it costs. Like it's crazy. Yeah. There's a lot of problems with it. It doesn't work very well. The quality of the standard of care is pretty fucking bad. It only really puts out fires. There's no proactivity to it. There's a lot of complaints that I could have with it, but
but
really
yet,
vulnerable
even after
people,
all that, you guys have a higher level of health than we do in the United States. Lower levels of obesity, lower levels of stress. Like overall, your lifespan is longer. I mean, all these really weird metrics that you would say, like when someone hears you talk about your healthcare, say, "See, America's so much better. We have the best healthcare in the world." Yet that doesn't match up stat wise.
yeah, of
You
course.
guys are
Well, like
so much healthier than we are
you have
overall.
the ability of the system to produce those outcomes at scale on average is not that the access to the better system in the US is like predicated on what you can afford, obviously. And
Exactly.
here in
But
Canada, everybody's got that baseline.
Yeah, let's swing it back to NFTs.
Yeah, of course. We're getting in the weeds on medicine here, country medicine.
But let's talk about scams. Like, I was thinking like now would be a good time for us to maybe kind of go over some really good like uh like a checklist of what we want our friends and people who are new to the space to do to make sure they don't fall for scams. So like right now there's a big scam that people are sending NFTs to strangers, and if
Mm-hmm.
the person interacts with that NFT or tries to sell it or do anything with it, that person's able to hijack their entire account. Have you
Yeah,
heard of this?
I've heard of it. I haven't looked too deeply into exactly how it works, but I've seen it with, especially on Binance Smart Chain tokens. They will airdrop you a token um, for, and they'll have like a market for it or whatever that you could theoretically sell into. Like they'll have liquidity. You'll be like, oh my god, this airdrop's worth like $2,000. I gotta dump it. And
Yeah.
when you give permissions to sell the or you sign for permissions to be able to transfer and sell the token, the way the smart contract for that token is constructed, uh, you can only sign a batch permission that allows whatever you're doing to whatever you're interacting with to spend unlimited amounts of every token at that address. So usually the
Yeah.
way they'll do this is they make you go to a website to get those permissions or to sign for those permissions rather than just the decentralized app that you're using. And so I think that's what these NFT airdrops are doing as well. They want you to get their permissions from their website. So it is a little bit of a fish in terms of, you can't just see the NFT in your OpenSea and sell it there. It will return an error. You have to go to the website, and there'll probably even be a link to that site within the NFT. We'll say get permission to trade this at our site. You register or whatever, and you can come do it. So that's a big one because we're used to with minting interacting with all these sites just generally, right? Like that's
Yeah.
something that we are used to. And so it doesn't feel too different to get an airdrop of an NFT and be like, okay, I get airdrops. And then like be encouraged to go to the site and be like, okay, I've done this for minting. This is just kind of two steps in an order that I'm not used to. And then bam, you sign permission to the site. You don't really know what you're signing, but then, that the contract that you've signed at that site has unwittingly and unbeknownst to you given them permission to drain all the funds that were there. And hopefully you didn't
Yeah.
have very much, but if you did, it's the contracts
Now,
now.
if I have a ledger or a Trezor, is it still able to override that and drain the account?
So the short answer is nearly every time no. But um there's still ways that you could be fooled. And it without knowing the code properly, because I'm not a coder,
Yeah.
the way they would probably do it is get you to do something through the site where you would sign another transaction to send the NFT or token or whatever somewhere, and the transaction would have a bunch of stuff appended to it, and then you would you still would notice because it would be like send all these funds along with this thing, and you could still like breeze click through it on your hardware wallet if you weren't fully aware. A lot harder to do, but it is possible. It's just usually takes like a spear phishing approach. They did it with, I always refer to this, but I always forget who it was. It was the CEO of some DeFi protocol who got spearphished and thought he was making a send transaction. He checked the first few digits of what he was signing in the first and the last few. But what they had done is they specifically took the time to concoct a different transaction that started and ended with the same few characters, so that when he checked them, he didn't realize that there was all this extra stuff in between, and it cleared out his wallet. That was a targeted thing that took a lot more resources on the part of the hacker, and it wouldn't be done necessarily en masse, but it's quite possible to do. And there's lots of other vulnerabilities that you can have, just even if you do use a hardware wallet. You can click around to a bunch of bad places, a bunch of bad sites that put a bunch of bad stuff on your computer, and fingerprint your browsers and see everything that you're doing. And then all it takes is throwing one bad login prompt to something completely unrelated to crypto, possibly, for you to enter a password into the wrong thing, and then suddenly find yourself in an identity theft situation or something like that.
So ultimately, I think it's safe to say is, if you should have everything, you should run everything through a hardware wallet.
Yeah, I think I was supposed to be working on an article for all of this, so that making it simple for people. But what people generally do out of excitement in the crypto space has kind of evolves faster than I can develop a safety protocol for it, for myself, let alone write it up. So I kind of almost not really gave up, but I'm keeping a diary and a log, and some things that I tried to do didn't work out. But boiling it down into very simple points, using a hardware wallet for everything is the safest thing you can do. If you're going to do one thing, it's use a hardware wallet for everything, and learn how to make that secure. Even if it's something that you leave on your desk in plain sight, and lots of people are walking by and could take it or whatever, and the password's not very strong, the pin's not very strong, at least you probably can't be hacked that way. Don't do all those things, but that's the lowest level of using a hardware wallet, and you will be way safer than if you didn't use it.
Yeah. And so another thing that I've caught myself doing twice, actually, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'll bring it up just because I want people to learn from it, is
sure.
If you're on crypto Twitter, people tend to be pretty enigmatic about projects. They're using slang and specific keywords that their community understands to try to drive up FOMO. And it happened to me twice where they didn't provide links, and so I just searched for it on OpenSea.
Ooh.
So dots was one of them, and let me see if I can remember the other one. So dots was one of them, and I forget the name of the other one. Whatever, I forget the name of the other one. And so what happened was I did a search. None of them had a blue check mark because it was a brand new project.
Right.
And with dots, the artists are anonymous anyway. So that I don't think that it took about a week of the community pushing OpenSea to finally get a blue check mark without them verifying the artist, because so many people were getting scammed,
right,
including me. And so there's a lot of people, when a hot project is like that, they'll just start right clicking and creating a fake site with just copy pastes of the original one. So a good way to check is when someone's doing that, and you're on an individual item in OpenSea, scroll down and click on properties.
Mm-hmm.
Because legitimate projects will usually have the properties tab filled out, and it'll give all the different properties of that individual piece. The fake ones almost never do. Or they'll have one property or something like that. Just enough to make it look like they're trying, but not enough where anybody who knows what they're doing is going to take it seriously. So they're trying to get people who are FOMOing and not just not paying attention.
Right.
They're so excited.
There's a lot more total supply information you can glean from looking at those properties. So if you're looking at a fake project and it's only got 80 fakes versus a whole series of 10,000. Like
Exactly.
the rarities of those traits are going to be much rounder numbers than what you would be expect to see in like a list of or properties of like 10,000 NFTs, you know?
If they even have traits at all.
Yeah, if they even have them at all. Exactly. A, one other thing that I've found is even in the OpenSea search bar, you can like they're autocomplete. You can start typing the name of a series. Like you could start typing the name of dot dot dots, and the real one will come up, and the fake ones will also come up, but they won't have 10,000 different items. They'll only have
Yeah.
like a much smaller number, and right there, like you obviously want to stay away from the pretenders that have a similar name but have a much smaller number. That's just something that's easy to miss if you're just typing something in and it looks right, and then you go to buy that.
Yeah. Because the one I went to, like, so dot dot dots was the original one, and I went to
Mhm.
dot dot dots NFT, and one had
Oh,
like 500, but it was just launching and stuff, and people were still minting, and that's how I fell for it.
got
But
it.
like perfect example is Breadheads. I'm on Breadheads OpenSea. There's only 500, and I click on it, and he doesn't have any properties, but
Right.
it's the direct link from his Twitter account, and so that's why sometimes you have to be really, really careful. You have to check. So it's like, yeah, he's got
Yeah.
his Twitter account. Um, Notsofast follows it, and XYZ. You gotta you have to kind of do these breadcrumbs to find out, is this the legitimate person? Is this real? Is this so and so? Is this? And so it's like you just got to be really, really careful when you're when especially if you're on Twitter, because a lot of these people are trying to generate FOMO because they're the ones who minted 6,000 out of 10,000 using the bots,
Oh, big time,
and
big
they're
time.
trying to drive it up.
And I would say that if you see me following something, like don't take anything from that, because I follow like scams to track them, and I follow like complete trash just to see what it's all about. And
Yeah.
I almost never like unfollow. I'll just mute something unless it's like a complete scam that I got like tricked into, and I feel like an unfollow is the easiest way for me to not
Yeah.
lend credence to it. And another interesting point is like, because for example breadheads were all created manually, they they don't come with traits to begin with, right? Like
Yeah.
the easiest way to make traits is you have a bunch of pre-made art components, and each of those components is a trait, and then you put it all
Exactly.
through a randomizer, and hey presto, you have a generative project. But all those
Yeah.
traits come with it because the randomizer just uses those as a way to assign different art components to each specific NFT in the series. So the traits
Yeah.
are already there, and they just get revealed whenever the art gets revealed. But something that was done manually as part of a series, it doesn't go through that process, and it has to be added back later. So
And it's a pain in the ass.
oh, it's a huge pain in the ass because it's not done automatically. Breadheads will have a lot of work to do. I think the biggest and most work intensive one that I've seen so far is for Bastard Ganpunks,
Okay.
because they just took the raw images, spiced up with a few of Berko's Demir's own like variations on it,
Yeah.
um, and made it completely out of graphics and not out of like specific discrete um, traits. And so now, to classify the rarity of what his algos came up with, people are going back through everything and assigning it all manually. And the work is still
God.
underway. It's cool. It's worthwhile because it's a pretty awesome project. It's one of the only like direct CryptoPunk derivatives, and I know there are people that would be mad at me for even calling it that. Uh, that is actually successfully spun off with its own flavor.
Yeah.
That's just inspired by CryptoPunks, but like
But
different enough that it's actually transformative.
how are they going back and adding properties if it's frozen? Are they just not freezing it? Are they not
You know,
freezing the metadata?
that's a good question. Um, Maybe the metadata isn't frozen for those, because it didn't need to be, right? They started life out as only graphical assets, and I guess he could rug everything if he wanted
Yeah, I
to.
mean that's the crazy thing, because it's like because I have a bunch of stuff up on Tezos, on
Mm-hmm.
Hick, and I was gonna have a bunch of stuff on Polygon, and I was going to have a small series put up on like I do surrealist photography stuff,
Cool.
and I was gonna put some stuff up on OpenSea on Ethereum layer one, and just to freeze it was going to be like $80 per
Oh
one,
man.
and it's a series of like 250 pictures. I was like, okay, I don't like, and the ones I did on Polygon, OpenSea, and Tezos, every single one there is frozen. It's like, well, Tezos does it automatically, but on Polygon, I went through manually. I think I have like 50 things on the Polygon one, and I went through manually and froze every single one and paid the 25 cents for every single one.
Oh man.
So like individual artists like me who are doing small runs, or like breadheads, if he freezes this stuff, it's going to cost a lot of money for him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's gonna. Fortunately, out of his sale, for example, he got enough income that he can kind of wait till gas is cheaper and do it gradually. And I think people will, for the most part, understand. Or the nice thing is that if they're getting impatient or they don't get it, they're free to put it up for sale on OpenSea and have somebody else buy it.
Yeah. I mean, I went to
But
his Twitter and he said, "Hey, gas is expensive. I haven't even been able to reveal 250 yet." He goes, "That's my goal today, is try to reveal 250." He only
yeah,
has 62 revealed on chain. I mean, that's insane. But like, that's what these this is what these like small time artists who are just kind of like breaking into it are forced to do with main chain Ethereum. So that's one of the only downsides of it. But that's also, as a buyer, if something's not frozen, we have to worry about it just disappearing at some point. So
yeah,
always right click your NFTs when you buy them and save a copy on your hard drive. Save it in the cloud, save it somewhere, because the identifier on the chain is never going to go away. But if they don't freeze it and delete it, and you didn't make a copy of it, then you don't have you don't have proof anymore. Like, you don't have the image. So always
right,
make sure to save a copy of it for yourself.
right. There's a potential that you could find it in a cache somewhere, but it's a good idea to always like right click save your own thing, just because anybody can, and it's so why not you? Yeah, I'm looking at a bastard Ganpunk right now, and it doesn't, on OpenSea, and it doesn't have a little thing that says whether the metadata is frozen or not. So maybe there is something that something to do with its own token standard where maybe that's not pertinent, or it doesn't matter, or maybe if the metadata is not frozen, then it just doesn't, that field doesn't show up at all. I'll
I
have
mean,
to
it'll
ask around
usually
about
show
that.
that little snowflake on the image when you're scrolling through the images. There'll be a snowflake next to it.
Oh yeah, I thought that was something for rareable NFTs
That's what
only.
I
Maybe I'm
thought
wrong.
too.
Yeah.
But no, it's just because I guess when you mint on Rarible, it automatically freezes everything. And that's why it's so
Mm.
expensive. I was like, why is Rarible so expensive and OpenSea so cheap? That's why they're not
It's got that
actually.
extra gas transaction involved in it to freeze the
Yeah.
metadata. Okay. Okay.
See, good.
That's something new. I'm learning
Learn.
something new from you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. That took me a long time to figure out. It's like, what the hell, man? This is crazy. And
Yeah.
also, I don't know, have you looked at Voxo Deus at
I have
all?
not even heard of it yet. I don't think.
Okay. Check it out on OpenSea. It's I love it. And it's they made the first relationship with Sandbox to have their NFTs be three-dimensional and be able to play in the sandbox. But they are a perfect example. Is they're constantly, so everything was minted, everything's out there, or
Yeah.
not everything yet. I think there's like 1,000 left to be minted. So everything that's been minted is on OpenSea, and none of them are frozen because they're like, hey, we're having a contest with Vogus. So we're gonna let you if you win, you'll get a Vogu pet.
Huh.
Well, the only way to add that Vogu pet to your NFT is if it's not frozen. And they
Right.
can go back in and add it to the actual thing. So a
Right.
lot of
Right.
these things
Right.
I think are not freezing on purpose just so they can continue to add to it and grow and make changes and smooth. Like they did one thing where they actually smoothed out the NFT
Huh.
to make it look cleaner and a little bit more vibrant. And they did that maybe like a week ago, like maybe like 2 weeks ago. And that was, 6 months, 4 months after the things launched. So it's interesting that we are kind of putting a little bit of faith in these artists that they aren't just going to rug and
Yeah.
run away with it.
I don't think that's wrong. I think, it's an acceptable risk depending on what the project's trying to do. Like if they're working towards something that will eventually be frozen once they finish the work, that's fine. If they're working on something that is constantly going to change, then that risk of rugging will kind of always exist. And I still don't think that's wrong if it's part of the nature of the project. Like I guess having to say that is partly influenced by the idea that the hardcore Bitcoiner idea, where every single thing that we do that has anything to do with Bitcoin or a blockchain or some other shitcoin or a blockchain has to be as decentralized and permissionless as possible as its most important priority trait. And
Yeah.
with NFTs, like that's not part of the equation in many cases. Like we can't use this application of technology fully unless we explore ways to allow for future change of the asset that the token points to. There's value in having it changeable, and there's value in having it changeable into a certain point, and there's value in having it immutable from creation. And all those
Yeah.
things are separate kind of sub use cases. They all matter, and they all come with their own, rug risks, except for the
And
immutable from creation part.
and it's not just the artist though. If they mint it on OpenSea, it's where's the data actually stored? Like where's it pointing to? And if OpenSea were to go down and it's not frozen, I guess no, it's not being stored on OpenSea. It's being stored on other places like Pinata and other things like that.
Yeah. Like this
Um,
is another thing. It's a valid criticism of NFTs to a point. I would say there are some people that actually some Bitcoiners that I know again that are trying to show that NFTs are ruggable and they're not completely immutable, and that's all well and good. It's part of the exploration of the new kind of application of the technology. But the way and I'm just learning all this myself too. The NFT contains um, a, a kind of a line in the code for it called the URI, and that points to the I guess file location of the digital asset, whatever it is, if it's like a JPEG or a GIF or an MP3 or whatever. Like that URI gets set, and then whatever's at the destination of that URI, that's what it ends up being. So usually that's an upload to IPFS, like the Interplanetary File System. And
yeah.
NFTs in general lean super heavily on IPFS. Like that's where you store the graphical asset. And if for some reason IPFS goes down, you can't, unless you've locally saved something, you can't view what the URI leads to.
Yeah.
If you don't have it in local cache and you're offline, you can't follow the URI to kind of anything anywhere. And so what I've been talking with a couple of devs about is hey, what if there were a way to design an NFT or even the URI part of an NFT or a token standard to have like failovers? So you could freeze the metadata right at the beginning, but then have it point to, say, the centralized server for your project on which all the images reside. Because then, you could load it way faster than getting it from IPFS. And then if that doesn't work, or if it gets corrupted because someone hacks your server and the image that the URI calls for returns a different hash than what's stored in the NFT's own token contract, then it fails over. It doesn't load that image. And then it instead defaults to IPFS. And then if for some reason that's down, then it goes to like Arweave. And then if for some reason that's down, then it goes to Pinata. And then if that's down, it goes to like Coin or something else. Like there's lots of options out there, but we seem to only be using one or the other just because we're early enough that it hasn't been mission critical for a failover URI protocol to be created yet. And this is actually relevant to NFT stuff that I'm working on.
I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, the reason why I'm learning about this stuff is I have a motivation to I want to create something. I tend to not do anything unless I really, really have a cool inspiration to do something. And so I have been at work actually since January on an NFT thing, I guess you could say. There's not a lot I can talk about because the details of it are still in process. And part of everything that I've been doing since January is to just kind of, I don't know, build the moat, but also make it not suck, because I really want it to not suck. I really don't want it to be shitty.
Welcome to being an artist.
Yeah. I'm feeling that for the first time maybe ever. Oh my God, I don't want this to suck.
It's such an emotional journey.
Yeah. Oh, how do you guys deal with it?
I do, seriously, me and JJ did a whole episode on I think we called it Killing Your Baby. Where it's just you create this thing and you got to throw it out into the world and just kind of walk away and hope it lives on it, hope it survives on its own. Oh. It's a really, really hard thing that most artists never really fully grasp.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of why the crypto, I mean, I don't know, I'm going to totally speculate here.
Sure.
But part of me thinks it might be, and I want to use this as a segue into my next thing I wanted to bring up. Mm-hmm. I think it might be why CryptoPunks isn't giving people who own the CryptoPunk the rights to the CryptoPunks, because that means that they no longer have the right to their own artwork, and that somebody else can profit 100% off of their hard work and eventually become a billionaire. So it reminds me of the guy who created Victoria's Secret. He sold it for $2 million or something like that, and now it's a $10 billion industry. And so it's that emotional thing where it's just I built something, I created it, and now I'm not even the one making the money off of it anymore.
Huh. Yeah. That's fascinating.
So as a buyer, I was yes, this is great. I can put it on a t-shirt. I can do this. I can do that. But as an artist myself, I was wait a minute. What if somebody turns around and turns this into a multi-billion-dollar asset, and I'm just the guy who designed, and I put it under one of my anonymous accounts. So not only is my name not even associated with it.
Yeah.
But somebody else is making all this money and I'm still just struggling just to pay rent. That's a very difficult thing to kind of grapple with as an artist.
Yeah.
I wanted to get your take on that.
Well, I'd like to say that NFTs solve that with the ability to include residuals. But that's a whole other thing, because as far as I know, it takes a bit of extra work to include that part into the contract. And a lot of the ways to enforce a residual or a payment of an exchange whatever the purchaser buys something for in an exchange back to the creator of the asset rather than the owner is platform specific. And
Yeah.
that's why you have OpenSea's 2.5% haircut, which is insane money, by the way. It's just awesome. And it
Yeah.
can't last forever. It's so ripe for disruption. But anyway, you can mint NFTs on OpenSea, and they want you to because their residuals baked into that version of their NFT token standard contract, right? But
Yeah.
if you do a Rarible one, then it's on Rarible, and you can set the residual parameters to yourself kind of differently there. Like within it, you can move the slider to a different range. I think it's as high as 10% to yourself.
I can set on OpenSea. I can set it from like 2.5 to 10% from my own cut. So OpenSea gets 2.5%, and then I get my cut as well.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like if there is that you can bypass that by doing a over the counter transaction off OpenSea and then sending just for gas the NFT
Yeah.
to someone else. And in a lot of cases where you don't have like an ironclad trust relationship with someone, like just do it through OpenSea and pay that fee,
Exactly.
if you have to. But it's the rent
Exactly.
that they're allowed to charge for making a safe place to exchange. But
Yeah.
you could conceive of a new marketplace that comes up that for a gas transaction that's cheaper than OpenSea's 2.5% cut for NFTs of a certain value, they will have a transfer process that allows you to temporarily wrap the OpenSea NFT, send it or sell it through their way lower commission trading service, then unwraps it at the other end, all within the same thing, and completely cuts OpenSea out. It's possible, as far as I know, to construct an NFT trading smart contract that will do that and will kind of bypass the
I mean,
built-in residuals.
OpenSea aside, if I mint something directly on the chain through code, I find it insane that no one's come up with a program yet where I can send something to you and say it won't hit your wallet until you've sent your one Ethereum over. Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand how that doesn't exist yet.
like
a
an automatic escrow. Like I think
yeah,
it
it's
does.
insane.
I just
Well, I
think like
mean, not at
yeah.
scale. Like, I don't know anybody. Like, I don't hear about it anywhere where like it's like everyone's like, oh yeah, just do it here.
So
Make trades.
I think it kind of works that way. But you have to go into the contract for that particular token, and you can there'll be a field in it. I don't know if you've had the chance to play with this much yet, but you can interact with a tokens contract directly by connecting your Web3 wallet like MetaMask to
Yeah.
the contract in Etherscan, and there'll often be like an offer to field where you can pick a specific address and set a specific amount of Ethereum that if they want it, they pay that much in the when they interact with a contract, and any other Ethereum amount, it will just be a failed transaction or like a transaction that would be, it would throw an exception with too much gas for you to want to be able to like try and send it. So there is a way to do that
But
just
anybody can fill that
naturally.
out. So like
Well,
anybody who so if you and I were talking and somebody was bugging it and I say, hey, I've just listed it, somebody could easily snipe that from you and just
that's the
fill in the
thing is that
proper amount.
I could specify, you could paste me your address, your ETH address that you want to buy it with. And when I make that offer, I specify that only that ETH address is allowed to
Oh,
buy it.
okay.
So like the CryptoPunks Larva Labs inbuilt marketplace has that, where you can make a specific offer to anyone. And I've actually used it. it's pretty rad. Like, only that person can accept the offer that you set. And
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, so it kind of already works, but
Okay.
why go after a marketplace of one in most cases when you can go after a marketplace of nearly everybody, unless you've made some kind of agreement, out of band, which I'm sure happens
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, I've used it plenty. It's cool, but it's not immediately apparent because, again, OpenSea is the the king of this
I
area.
know. It's insane.
All trade goes through them. It can't last forever. It's cool because it's easy. There's never been an easier way to onboard. It's like, oh, I buy the JPEG, I trade it through OpenSea. I need the JPEG's website, and I need this website. It's very simple and easy, and so it's kind of nice for onboarding. But it's the pre-Cambrian explosion of marketplaces for NFTs, and there's a bunch, I'm sure, coming down the pipe, and it'll be really cool to see how they scrabble to eat OpenSea's lunch.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I'm just thinking like a year ago, did OpenSea even exist a year ago?
It's been around. I had a few of my first NFTs on Ethereum in early 2018 were to do with the Neon District kind of NFT based MMORPG, and I was looking. I could view them on Rarible and I could view them on OpenSea, and OpenSea looked way jankier. And I set one for sale and I forgot about it and it never sold. And then I went back and like eventually recovered it. But it's been around for years. But then at the start of this year with the NFT trade, it started getting used. And then of course by like June, July, August, it just had like the most incredible explosion you can possibly have. And I think like
Yeah.
even September, I think I don't want to say wrong data and lies, but I thought I heard that they beat August already in the middle of September, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But I mean, it's so many points along the way they just completely buckled under the pressure of too much traffic, which is insane.
Yeah. Well, it's one
such a
website,
small community.
Right? Yeah, like no provisioning that AWS can possibly do can prepare for like the weird ass intermittent, totally out of OpenSea's control, like data load requirements that can happen with NFTs. Like stuff's minting all the time. It tracks literally the entire Ethereum blockchain. It's a lot of data flowing in, and then it's got to like update metadata and like assign blue checks to things. Like those manual things on top of everything else are hard to serve from any website that goes from 0 to 100 that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I was on KeyDAO on Polygon.
Oh, cool.
And I created a pool. I'm blanking on the term of it. It's like, so you create your own market essentially, and you stake it there, and you can borrow against it.
Cool.
And I went to OpenSea, and my two different pools were there. So by creating that, it was essentially an NFT. And I was like, whoa, that's okay. That's interesting. So it's even tracking that. So, I mean, this site is pretty remarkable for what they've been able to accomplish in such a short period of time under high stress. Because like you said, it was janky back when you were trying to use it. Well, now it's a pretty solid website, and it's handling this much stress, and it seems like it's a pretty small team doing it.
Oh,
maybe it's bigger now.
I'm sure they've been adding like like crazy, and they have to be. And a lot of what they've done is still, it looks much as it did early on. And the handling of things like trait names and stuff, it's still truncated in a lot of views. Like it's not fully baked, and it's already in such heavy use that it's just like they probably don't even have time to work on that. So I gotta give them props, like to to have the positioning that they did and stick around kind of working away on making this, like, it became the proverbial "if you build it, they will come" website, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of awesome to see. I love them. Like, I'm even though it's a centralized bottleneck, and in some ways it's everything I feared or wanted to avoid with cryptocurrency. I've
Exactly.
been around the block long enough to recognize that, like, yeah, you're gonna get some centralized things just because they there hasn't been time to sort of, or inclination to build it out,
Yeah.
or for competitors to even build out their own offerings yet. Like, it's fascinating to be a part of something that moves as quickly as it does all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and how many millionaire artists have been minted in the last 6 months because of these guys?
Honestly, I hope the number is even higher than I could possibly imagine, because that's just cool.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's just like, it's amazing to think of like what it's offered poor struggling artists. I mean, granted, I think the majority of these people who are making millions are probably the big famous artists who have a lot of clout already,
Yeah.
especially social media clout. But if you can get on one person's radar, it's a great way of, you don't need to go out and buy canvases and paints and all these things, and or buy like a super expensive camera or this or that. Like, you can just make a small little JPEG that you can shoot on your iPhone or your camera phone, and just become a millionaire the next day
Yeah.
if it gets
Yeah.
in front
Like,
of the right person.
yeah, I think it's, at this point it's probably mature enough that can't happen any longer, and it probably shouldn't. If just like sketching something on your phone app and then putting it up on OpenSea as an NFT and it sells for like $1 million, like
Have you
that
seen
should.
V Friends?
I try to avoid. I try to
Oh
avoid that,
my
man. I
God.
have a love hate with Gary Vaynerchuk, honestly. Like, there was probably 10 years ago, I was like reading his books. I was trying to dig myself out of the hole that I'd put myself in life. And I was hoping that using his marketing know-how, I'd like be able to do it somehow. And of course it didn't work, because, I was kind of fighting against myself and not really knowing even that I was doing it.
Yeah.
But, he's a promoter. Like, he's a hype man, and he knows how to use attention, and in the right ways. And part of that is, and you can see it so badly in the cryptocurrency space, where he's always, always, always warning people and coddling them, because that's what if you get enough people complaining, your engagement gets hammered, and
Yeah.
it's easy to get canceled in that legacy system if you steer too many people the wrong way. So, like, it's laughable almost to us in crypto how much he has to, like, warn people off of FOMOing what he's trying to get them to sell them into FOMOing into.
I know. It's insane. Oh, it's like the whole like reverse psychology bullshit. It's
Well,
just
yeah,
like,
it plays into that. And I'm sure on some level he knows about it, but he still has to, like, set the record straight that, like, well, I spent 8 minutes of this video warning people from participating, but then the last 3 minutes I put on the smiles like, it's going to be awesome.
and then
And,
tried to
like,
sell them 12 copies of the same exact book.
exactly.
It's
And
like, talk about confidence, man. I mean, I'm not, like that. That's a confidence trick. I'm not saying he's a confidence man.
yeah,
But
there's a lot of, like, of what his body of work. I've learned enough from it that I can say that I like the guy, and his conduct in the NFT space. It's just like overly weird, because he's got all this legacy system stuff and, like, reputation to keep intact. Like,
yeah,
he's not an anon. The guy's got, like, wine businesses and stuff. He doesn't want that scammer label, and getting close to crypto and NFTs and experience building around NFTs is, it's not my thing. He can
yeah.
go and do it. No, that's not my thing.
I will say that when I hear people like him try to write how-to books, it reminds me of somebody that was born with a six-pack trying to teach somebody who's overweight to get a six-pack.
That's a great
because,
analogy.
they just have no clue how to get a six pack because they're like, oh, just eat this and eat this. You're like, well, wait a minute. That's not even remotely healthy. Like, what are you talking? Well, I eat it and I have a six pack. You were born on third base, bro. You don't even
Yeah.
realize. It's
Born
like,
on third base.
or like somebody who was born to millionaire parents saying, well, this is how you get rich. It's like, you have no clue what it's like. You're just
Yeah.
naturally, you're naturally a salesperson, Gary. Like if
Yeah.
someone's an introvert, you can't just say, oh, this is how you do it, because you have to like figure out how to break through the person's being an introvert first before they can use any of those tools that you use to get rich. And so
Yeah.
like that's why I try to remind people, it's just like people like that, like people will say to me, I don't know how you can talk so much. And I was just like, I'm born this way.
Yeah.
Literally. Like I'm an outgoing person. I was born this way. On every single report card through elementary school, it says, very great kid, talks way too fucking much. Every single report card. I am just a natural talker. That's why I'm good at this, because I was born this way, not because, and I've done some stuff with grad school and this and that to like really kind of hone that skill set.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I was born this way. I'm not going to ever tell somebody who's an introvert, oh, it's really easy to do. You just got to go to grad school. No, it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you bring up like extroversion and an ability to talk, and compared to like introversion potentially being like a disadvantage to sales. Cause I feel like, especially the better parts of crypto Twitter and its intersection with the NFT space have, have totally removed that boundary in an awesome way.
Exactly.
Like there are some
Yeah.
introverted artists that have, kind of met their tribe, but I don't like using the word tribe anymore because it invokes like the tribalism part and the bad part. So just like
Yeah.
met their crew, met their
Community.
compatriots, maybe. Yeah, met their community.
Yeah.
And have been able to be recognized for their work without having to deal with a lot of spotlight on their communication where they don't want or need it. They can push something with a tweet, and it's just generally already understood and seen and appreciated by people who already understand and see and appreciate them. And it's just kind of like like building on their own stuff. And eventually, once that machine's kind of rolling, all they need to do is put up a new piece of art that they made with no words at all, and everybody kind of gets it. And what I'm thinking about with this is like, there was like an artist who did custom pudgy penguins for a lot of people, who now is quite beloved.
Ethereum
Yeah,
Chan.
Ethereum,
Yeah.
super awesome. And was actually, I had the good fortune to talk to, I think it's her, in DMs about it.
We can just say
Because
they.
yeah, I
Because
will.
they've been very anonymous in DMs with me too.
Yeah. I think they've been trying to navigate how a pay what you can model moves up against like what other people have been paying, and like, the bad feelings when someone pays a lot less than you might expect, and like, what are the shortcomings of a pay what you can model, whereas it's okay to set a floor for your work and not feel ground down because you promise all this stuff but then you're not getting enough money for what it takes. It's just someone new to that whole kind of aspect of it. I felt really fortunate that they made me something, and then I was only too glad to like give them a bit of advice in return to just sort of make, it shouldn't be a burden to have a lot of people loving and enjoying their custom art, and getting bogged down on the bad feelings that come with it kind of being being mispriced because it's too hard to ask for something else. And another artist that I think is just knocked it out of the park is Ratwell, who has been doing like WASI stuff for, oh man, since definitely last year, maybe even longer. And
I'm not familiar with Routewell. Check
yeah,
them out.
she's done a ton, and there's other ones too, like that have just become part of like the visual lexicon of CT, and also made NFTs of all their stuff. I don't know. It's cool to see that we actually get to have a culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that isn't
Yeah.
just
So
like
Ethereum
money, bro.
Ethereum may
Yeah.
come on the show, and they didn't want to have their voice be heard.
Oh,
And so I
neat.
said
Okay.
we could use a voice digitizer and either do it live, or I could just send you the questions vocally, and then you record, and then you type it into a voice digitizer and let that replay it back. Oh, I'll record that, and then I'll just cut it all together at the end.
Oh yeah. Well,
Um,
that's nice of you that you'd be willing to do that. But there are some pretty good phone digitizer apps that I've seen, and
okay.
I think they're cheap or free, and it can take a bit to have them, like you would be able to hear Etheria Chan's voice on
Yeah.
the stream potentially, but the recording would not pick that up. It would only pick up the digitized voice. So
See, I was thinking, remember those old iPhone, Android commercials where it was just the two cartoons, and people were typing in and making like variations on it. Like, I would like the new iPhone. I would like the new. You're driving me crazy. Like, what's wrong with?
yeah.
I forget. It was like from like 6, 7 years ago. So like we could use that app or something like that, and have the whole interview be there. You know. But like my thing is like that sounds like somebody who is slightly an introvert and doesn't want people to know who they are.
Oh, big time.
And it's like, how do we allow those people to flourish, and give them a voice outside of just being an artist? And I think Twitter does that a lot for people, which is amazing.
Yeah. I've got to say, like, crypto Twitter, for all its faults, I mean, occasionally I venture into like Canadian politics Twitter or COVID Twitter just to remind myself like how good we have it.
Yeah,
Like
it's insane how good we have
it's
it.
it's really like I hope it never goes away. I hope that like looking at it doesn't make it go away. You know, every day I'm thankful for the higher quality of discourse and like in jokes and shit posting, and like part of it is because it's a little bit dense to get into, and I think, you know, that's a natural protection, but I'm so thankful for, you know, it's kind of there have been times where I felt it's been getting worse, but it generally hasn't. It's generally only gotten better and built its own moat based on kind of inner speak, except it's not to the detriment of outsiders. It's just kind of moving too quickly to have the definition of itself based on what outsiders think of it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but that kind of goes back to my thing of like people don't really provide links. It's just insider knowledge, and that's my
Yeah.
only complaint about it. Is that's how I got scammed twice. My own
Yeah.
fault. It's not somebody else's fault. I can't blame them that they didn't provide a link. But I wish that it was a little less FOMO inducing sometimes.
Right.
Because that was kind of frustrating. It's like, damn it,
Oh,
one
big
of them,
time.
and the one, and I was so frustrated that I sold my Pudgy because I got scammed on two dots, and I was just like, and I was out of Ethereum. I was like, fuck it, so I just sold my Pudgy at floor,
Oh man.
and I was just like, but that's part of the learning experience. You got to. I
Yeah.
was happy. Not happy I got scammed, but I'm happy that I learned something from the experience of like, yeah, gotta check those properties. That
Oh,
is
big
such an
time.
important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I it breaks my heart every time I hear somebody have a bad experience, because like most of the time they're so avoidable, and
Yeah,
I I kind of boiled it down to two things, like, because it's really easy to be rushed up in like a confidence scam, and the one of the best things you can do is just like slow down. especially if it's a confidence scam where like a lot of authentic sounding people are talking to you and trying to help you out or getting in on something with you. Like if it becomes like you're about to send money and you just say like, I got to go do something else. Let's pick this up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if it's
Yeah.
not a confidence scam, they will always wait for you. You're like, prices may change a lot. You might find you missed an opportunity. You might find you lost some money, but that's way better than losing it all. And there's always another opportunity. Like the longer you stick around without getting killed in crypto, the more you realize that like, missing out on something is just like a crappy feeling, and it's whatever at the end of the day. Like there's always something new happening at breakneck speed. And so saying like slowing it down and moving it at your pace is exactly what someone who's trying to scam you doesn't want, because it's that much larger of a window for you to like reflect back and think like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I'm done with this. And then their mark is gone, or they lose interest and they just move on to somebody else that they can literally hustle from beginning to completion. And you've made yourself that much harder to just kind of be taken. And in fact, one of the major reasons why I created my handle is as a reminder to myself whenever I see it. Hey, dude, not so fast. You don't have to FOMO into this particular thing. Like, slow it down. It's not going to go away in 5 minutes. And, it worked for a while. And then now I just see it so often I don't even read it as a word. So it worked for a while.
But it's also amazing. And I think that's part of the reason why I do this is because the show is because if we can learn something and then learn how to use it in other facets of our life. Like one of the greatest tools I learned in grad school for acting was my vocal coach would say, if you're up on stage in front of 2,000 people and you're not feeling it, you have permission to stop and recenter yourself.
Whoa.
You are under no obligation to continue giving a bad performance that you think is bad.
Wow.
Take that moment, ground yourself, however you need to do it, stomp your feet, whatever. Just get in that moment, get back into your body. The audience will appreciate it in the long run.
Huh.
And right now, we're the audience. Like we're our own audience when we're buying these things. And so if we don't feel comfortable with something, we have to trust that instinct.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good analogy that I would have never considered. Could you indulge me a little more about like how like techniques for doing that? Like, I imagine being on stage, and then how do you like ground yourself and recenter yourself? And then of course you've got the chops and learned skills to sort of weld that into the performance once you pick yourself up off the floor type thing. Is that how it feels or works?
There's a tendency, and I think every person listening to this will be able to relate to this, when we're experiencing some kind of FOMO. And FOMO is just energy. It's like excitement. And so for me, the sensation is I feel like I'm lifting up out of my body, and I'm starting to like lose control a little bit, and my body's kind of doing things, and then it's doing something. I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize I was like, wow, that's a weird thing I'm doing. Whoa, I'm like really excited. Whoa. It's like almost like being on like way too much caffeine. That sensation hits me sometimes up on stage, where there's just so much excitement in the auditorium or in the theater or whatever, and in the space. I'm just like, woof, like, and I can tell that I'm not really in control of myself anymore. I'm allowing the energy to kind of control me, and I'm just kind of along for the ride at that point. And that's a dangerous place to be, because it's really easy to make mistakes. It's very easy to not be connected to my partner. And, acting is just is reacting to what my partner's saying. And if I'm not really focusing on what my partner's saying and reacting naturally, then I'm acting badly at that point. And so what I do, and what I learned, and he was just like, just stop for a second and just kind of stomp on the ground a little bit and really kind of like bring yourself back down to the earth.
Huh.
And just the act of stomping forces the body to kind of like shake down and make yourself heavier. and that sensation alone can kind of like keep that energy, like keep your body in control of that energy, and stop it from kind of like letting you float off or like drag you off. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, no,
um
it's really cool. I
but
gotta keep that in the back of my mind as a toolkit for when I feel FOMO. I gotta
yeah,
stomp on the
just
ground.
stomp on the ground a couple
Yeah,
times. It's like
cool. Right
like a
on.
three-year-old.
That's hey, if it works for a 3-year-old, it can work for an adult too.
Exactly.
That's one for the toolkit, man. Thank you.
Hey, any way I can help.
Yeah, it's a good one. I will employ it. I'll if I use it, I'll tell you when it works.
Okay. Do you have time for one more topic?
Yeah, hit me.
Okay. Rarity tools and rarity sniper. What's your take on it?
Okay.
And so I'll give you. So I'll preface this by the Mars Cats today finally synced up with Rarity Sniper,
mhm.
and people lost their shit because they bought
What?
something they thought in their mind was rare, and they find out it was like the exact opposite of rare. And now people are
Whoa.
like selling at floor, and they're like, "Oh, this is ranked 9,000 out of 10,000. It's worthless." It's just like, well, I mean, how is that working out for Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks? The
Yeah.
least rare ones, the floor is insanely high. So if you
Right.
like the project, don't bail on it. But I did a little tweet storm. I bought one. I was going through and I bought a couple. So I bought a couple right off the top, and then I bought a couple that I thought quote unquote were rare. Turned
Mhm.
out they were the exact opposite. And then there was one I could not take my eye off of. And I kept scrolling through and scrolling through, and I kept on coming back to this one. And it was like the combination of the colors and the look on the cat's face and just everything. And I was like, oh, fuck, finally, after the gas went down, I was like, just, you know what? I'll keep this one and if this one goes to zero, I'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
Turned out that was the most rare out of all the ones that I bought.
Ah, that's kind of cool
And I
that
was like,
you
yeah,
had
it's like
the eye for
rank
rarity.
600. Yeah, like out of
Wow.
10,000. I was like, holy shit, okay. But that's also the one that I like the most. And so
So
it's like this weird thing of like rarity tools
yeah,
and rarity sniper. Every project's different. So people were like, oh, 4 traits are the best. 4 traits are the top 10, the top 20. But outside of that, like the 6 traits become the more rare ones. And so it's
yeah.
just like, what's your take in general about rarity? And like, do you follow that? Do you care about that?
So I'm trying something different this time with NFTs. And it's really heavily leaning on what I'd gone through before. Partly in the formative years of like the summer of altcoins in like 2014. That's where it's kind of one of the best places to compare this to, because there's a lot of people that are in it for the FOMO experience, the mint experience, and the flipping experience and the rarity searching experience. And in 2014, it was like you could mine any coin with any, stated premise and hope that it would catch on and a community would form and the hash rate would grow and it would become a long-term thing. But what was happening back then and what is kind of happening now is that a lot of projects are just being created to feed into that mechanism
Yeah.
of demanding new things to mint. And while that's not wrong, it signifies a certain point in the cycle of attention where it's moving towards a top. And just like a lot of those shitcoin proof of work networks just did not survive, scant few did. They didn't do too well, but they're still limping along. A lot of them just went to zero because of lack of interest over time or in a bear market. I feel like that same dynamic will definitely play out in NFTs, yet also NFTs have more going for them. They have like the perpetually tradable marketplaces. They have like the perpetual life on chain. rarity of a certain launch never stops being rarity. There's the archaeological component, which hasn't hit dead shitcoins yet and might never, though it will, I'm sure, a little bit, because those we're going to run out of old NFT projects to revive soon, and that's probably where we'll go next if we're suddenly valuing new old stuff that's
Yeah.
new again. But yeah, I do feel like Rarity Tools and Rarity Sniper are primarily to cater to the flipper market. And that's not wrong, but I think for the most part, how I'm choosing to interact with NFTs this time around is less as a hyper speculator, because I don't have an edge the way I did with mining. I'm more, kind of like everybody else. If anything, my edge is only the the honorary NFT clout that I've managed to garner over surviving this long, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be exploitative with that, right?
Yeah.
But I do love the idea of parsing all this stuff and finding what I really like, and the subjectivity of art and stuff that I like, or even like artists who reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm working on this." And it turns out I really like this. And then I have a conversation with them and I really like their motivations. And I discover I really like them as a person. Um, I'm, it sounds super lame, but I'm following my heart with it and it's fun.
You're so
you know,
sappy. Oh,
I'm
it's great.
sappy, but it's not like working against me. Like I had a conversation today where I was like kind of looking at, I had traded a Meebit for some art blocks, and I had sold all the art blocks because like art blocks, they're super awesome. I respect them and I love them, and I love the guy who created them. I think Snowfro is amazing at what he's created.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's such a shelling point, like it's such a all the attention is centered on that and its curation. Like I was always into indie stuff and like off the beaten path discoveries, away from the mainstream. And so that is kind of the perfect magnet for attention that allows me to explore elsewhere. And that's why like I don't feel like I need to own art blocks. I can appreciate them from afar and for what they did, and like find myself, oh shit, I wish I had that. But I'm
Yeah.
much more happy finding stuff on the periphery, and and possibly even um using my voice and attention to be like, hey guys, I actually really like this and really like this artist. And then maybe it feeds into some of their success. I feel like if it comes from a proper, like if it comes from the right place, then I'm not using, I'm not shilling something that I don't like. I'm saying like, hey, this person made me an honorary and I feel super honored by it. And it doesn't come across as a shill, yet it gets an amount of attention I feel is legitimate and kind of okay. And if there's
Yeah.
something that I like, or if I talked to an artist that I realized was like turned out to be a really cool person, I'm super proud to shout their name from the rooftops and like use what they made as an example to talk about a greater concept, like we did with Breadheads. Like that's not a shill. I love what he did. Um,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to approach it in the sense of talking about what I liked and what I think could be good, if it had a chance. And I've been wrong plenty of times. I've in retrospect shilled stuff that turned out to be scams or turned out to be failures, and a lot of people think that there's no differentiation between the two, and that's just a part of like being human and being wrong about stuff. I'm definitely not afraid to be wrong about stuff. But if you approach things with a little bit of common sense and just generally like openness, like you can smell a rat pretty quickly, and you can also find a gem pretty quickly as well, right? And that's kind
Yeah.
of what we're all trying to do, is just uh, I guess if there's something I've learned is that art is about creating something meaningful, and then with NFTs, somebody else can own that piece of meaning and that transfer of the meaning to them from the artist, but yet it's not, that meaning isn't lost by the artist during the transfer. Like there's a way for it to kind of grow organically in a way that isn't zero sum. And there's a lot of high end ideas that I feel like I'm not really bringing together properly here, but I feel like approaching it the right way is kind of what keeps me on keel.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said. Is like if you really like something and you're expressing something that you like, can you really be wrong?
I think you can, contextually, in that a lot of people will mimic you by shilling something in a way that's really hard to tell is any different from expressing something that person likes. And it goes back to the common sense idea of, learning who's got an authentic voice and learning who's just kind of being a salesperson. And that's not easy because salespeople are good at what they do. That's why they're salespeople. They convince you, right?
Gary V.
Yeah, it ain't easy to tell them apart, right? Like, and I respect Gary V. He's built more than I have by a factor of a very large factor. There's a reason why he's good at what he does. I read his books before he was ever into NFTs, but it's circling it back to the whole like rarity tools and rarity component. It's definitely going to be different this time, but it's going to rhyme with last time. Like a lot of these projects, communities are going to dwindle away if there's an NFT bear market, and some will survive. And it's much better supported with a marketplace this time. So the financial going to zero aspect will never fully happen. Plus, I think we're still early enough in the first NFT popularity explosion that like 5 to 10 years from now, a lot of the good projects and a lot of the like, we got an artist on Fiverr to make some trait projects will be like, they'll be revived because for some reason, like people will want to go antiquing in NFTs and they'll see something that's obviously good in retrospect and obviously like a real artist put thought into it in retrospect, and they'll revive it. And even some of the imagine like the Fiverr artist that did 7 different Bored Ape Club trait NFT series becomes famous for some other reason, and the NFT work they did was the launch pad that they got famous for. Like suddenly that confers retroactive value to all this stuff they worked on before.
Yeah.
And that dynamic didn't happen with like shitcoins back in the day, but it's here with NFTs. Like we're on the first, like we're riding the first wave of something that like of like a new ocean that's, the tide's not going to stop. Like it's just the waves are going to die down for a while and they're going to come back even bigger, but it's not going to dry up completely. Like that just can't happen.
I mean, I worry that eventually it's going to get to the point where, like there's 15,000 altcoins, 15,000 shitcoins, whatever.
Yeah.
And what percentage of those are going to make a comeback? But at the same time, if I buy something that I like and it goes to zero, I bought something I like.
Yep.
So that's why I like the idea of like really trying to figure out a way to make these things usable, like in the metaverse. Or, I mean, I would love, I still can't believe somebody hasn't come out with like a CT card game like Magic the Gathering, but of famous CT people. And like, so you have like the legendary status of like you and Vitalik and Roger Ver and like the legendary cards. Yeah. And then you have, like the third round cards of like Keyword Crypto or whatever. It's just like So you got, so I still, and then every single one has their own, like, I'm the one that'll talk you to death. And you're the one that can
Pretty cool.
take like 1,000 punches and still keep going because you've dealt with every single shitcoin and you're still here. So whatever it is, I still can't believe nobody's done that yet. But I think it's just a matter of time.
I'm sure that'll happen. That idea has been floated to me, and I'm sure a bunch of other people in many ways think like, how could we get any two random NFTs that people might want to put up into like a battle with each other on an equal playing field?
Yeah.
I think that's that's an NFT 2.0 type idea. Like we're so caught up in building and creating the basics right now and exploring the limits of that. Like for the most part, art was just something you looked at and personally liked. And now it's something that you looked at and also can trade because its value goes up and down and there's a liquid enough marketplace. And it's also something you can attach the ownership of to your online identity. And that's super important. Like that's almost, our bandwidth on that is maxed.
Yeah.
We're not ready for what you just suggested. I don't think, not this round. We're overwhelmed with just these basic use cases. And we all know that there's more out there and we're maxed out. I think, it will get built. Mark my words, it will get built. You might even find yourself being the one building it, but it will get built. We're just so maxed with like what it means for online identity and online like flexing and like online ownership in a world where it's hard to own stuff. And we're what's that meme? Like, you will own nothing. You will eat the bugs. You'll live in a box and you'll be happy or whatever. Like, I don't even know what that meme comes from or if it's political or what, but
Probably.
there's lots to own. There's lots to own in the digital metaverse that has nothing to do with that. And we're just kind of riding big wave one of the, future waves will be coming. And that's definitely a wave 2 concept, is like, how can I bring all this together in a new kind of gamified network and have NFTs show up as different stuff. One reason why I got into Neon District at the very beginning was that I hoped that their protocol would allow you to like take all these things these NFTs of things you crafted and earned in game and just use them based on rarity. Like you could import them into a new game that you were playing and you would have a set of like traits or maybe like some rare starting items or items with future rare potential. Cause nobody wants to start out with like overpowered items in the end game. Like the building is the fun, but your items would live on from game to game, and your sort of whole ownership of stuff, of all your NFTs, would influence your identity when you started a new game. It's sort of like reincarnating, but being able to take a bunch of stuff with you in spirit, and maybe they all combine to one thing, or maybe they all combine into traits or whatever. And I thought like, oh man, but I was way too early on that. The first wave hadn't even begun. So I was talking to them on, and it was falling on deaf ears. So like, let us build a game that works first, please.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, I feel like parallel alpha's like trying to get there. That's like the very early stages of it.
Oh, I'm so excited about what they're doing. I'm so excited. They're a juggernaut. Yeah, there's not enough I can say that's good about them. They're just doing everything right. I don't know. I'm fully parallel pilled.
Nice. I got the rug pull one, and then I sold it, and then literally 3 days later, like, oh yeah, if you have a rug pull, we're gonna give you a free alpha or a free what's the
Oh, a free SE card of
Yeah,
the
I was
rug
like,
pull.
and then as soon as I look back, it's like it had gone from like 0.1 to 1 ETH in like 5 minutes. I was like, God damn it, dude! Like that's been my luck a lot. So I was just like, all
Oh
right, just
man, yeah.
stop
The
trying
play
to.
there was to sell your common rug pulls for 1 ETH each, because they came all the way back down, and then the SE rug pull is like not that much more. So
Exactly.
in retrospect, like that
Oh,
was all FOMO, and I thought, like, I betcha if I sell these rug pulls, I'll be able to buy them back plus the SEs plus have ETH left over. And I didn't do it. I was just like, no, hold on, slow down. That's what you tell yourself to do, and then it ended up
yeah,
being wrong. But I survived,
yeah.
so
I mean, it's just like unrealized gains, and it's hard to get. It's hard. I have a difficult time getting mad at myself about unrealized gains.
oh yeah, you can't.
But I do get mad at myself is allowing FOMO to kick in and making irrational decisions out of greed and
Yeah,
then losing
yeah,
money on it. You're just like, oh God, stop being greedy. Stop, like, you know. Um, and I think NFTs are dangerous because they click all those buttons. You have the FOMO excitement, but you also have the visual.
mm-hmm.
These like really exciting looking, JPEGs, and it's just like, okay, I want that, I want that, I want that, and it's not just like I want to buy that coin so I can be rich. It's I like that piece of artwork,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
and that's
want.
like a natural way. But part of it feeding into that, probably whether you realize it or not, is you think like, oh man, I like this. I feel like other people are going to like this too. And I have the chance that I'm paying attention right at their inception via mint right now. And so I could, even if I like this, I could get more than one and then sell the other one and kind of like own what I got for free and get the chance to like do this again. That's what a lot of like the chasing what they like people, that's almost all they're trying to do. Like as long as they have capital free to ape into the next thing, they're happy and they're building a collection, because it feels awesome to build a collection, right? Of stuff that you like.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
who got to build an art collection before? You'd have to either be really, really into it and
or
have people
really
over to
really
come see it,
rich.
or really, really rich. Exactly. And NFTs have democratized the ownership of an art collection um, to a lot more people. And in a lot of ways, like even if you're find yourself becoming a big art collector, but you don't have a lot of funds, chances are you're also an art creator, and you can make your own art and sell it, and then you find yourself buying all your friends or compatriot artists' art in the NFT space. Like that dynamic's super interesting to me, because all these artists are like using their sick gains to to buy each other's art and fuel each other's success. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's especially if you can find that community that works, that clicks, and
Yeah.
so I think it's just about trying to find that community. So that's if you're into the space, if you're listening and you want to be an artist, is try to find that community that you gel with, that you actually want to talk to every day. Because some of these people are going to be like just shills. Some of them are going to be introverts or extroverts or whatever. You just got to find your vein that you want to like reply to these people every single day. And when you do that, it's nice,
Yeah.
especially on crypto Twitter. Um, all right. Anything else you want to throw out there before we end?
No, I think that was a good spot to do it. Like, the only thing I could add is like, uh, try to listen, because there's so much coming at you.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
plenty compulsions to talk, and don't be afraid of it. But like, yeah, listening to what's going on. If someone seems like a salesperson, you're probably correct. They're just a salesperson. If someone seems like they really like what they're doing, they probably do. Like I feel like there's a refreshing amount of relative honesty going on with NFTs still, because stuff is subjective and there's no downside to saying that you like what you like. That isn't to say that there isn't still liars, but like it's kind of just cool. There's a lot of honesty and a lot of being able to talk about what you like. It's a very non-toxic, opposite of toxic space right now.
Especially when you're just a pseudo-anon JPEG on Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, be anon. Then you have no obligations to anything but your own likes and interests.
Yeah. And that's a freeing way to live. It's freeing as an artist, because being an artist comes with a lot of baggage. And so, yeah, it's nice. All right. Well, thanks for coming on again. Third time champion.
Oh, I feel great about it. It's always an awesome talk. And then I look at the clock and I'm like, yeah. That was a good chew. Great way to burn 2.5 hours. 1.5 hours.
All right. So if you're listening and you want to reach out to Notsofast, it's at Notsofast on Twitter. And do you want to direct people to your writings, or are you just kind of doing everything on Twitter right now?
Yeah, that's it's all on Twitter. That's
okay.
That's the nexus.
Okay. And yeah, I'll ping you when this gets out, and can't wait to see what NFT 2.0 is. It'll be interesting.
Same here. I hope I'm still around to see it, and I hope you are too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Talk to you on the next one. Bye.
Cool, man. Bye.